Afternoon, Mr. Singh. Stephanie Taylor with the National Post. Going back to by-elections, you've laid out that Canadians in these ridings have a choice. If they don't choose the NDP and they don't choose you, why should you stay on as leader?
I will be the leader taking us to the next election because I want to be the next Prime Minister of this country.
Well, would you look at that? Jagmeet finally decided to be honest with Canadians and tell us it's not really about us, it's about him. He just wants to be Prime Minister. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. For today's video, we're going to be taking a brief look, and I do mean brief because I don't want to put you guys through the full 20 to 35 minutes of him talking and addressing the reporters in Montreal today, where he was having a meeting with his caucus members. Now, this press conference wasn't as bad as his first one that he just did the other day, where he kept ripping up the agreement.
Because I ripped up the agreement with Justin Trudeau, we have ripped up the agreement with Justin Trudeau. We've ripped it up. We've ripped up the agreement. We have ripped up this agreement.
But it was really close, as he continuously just repeated the same thing over and over again about Pierre Poilievre, the cuts, the corporate greed, price gouging, corporate landlords, yada yada, his same little spiel. But I do want to start off at the beginning of his announcement, where it seems like he doesn't really watch the news, because he had this to say.
We have a vision of our country where people can find a good job, where you can find a place that you can afford to call home, where people can buy their groceries and fill up their fridge, where people can get healthcare when they need it. But sadly, that is not the case right now. We know that people right now are struggling to put food on the table. They're struggling to find a home that they can call home. And that is directly the result of Justin Trudeau, who has let big corporate grocery stores rip you off.
So right off the bat, according to this guy, because of corporate grocery prices, you can't afford your house or your health care. Obviously, grocery prices make sense, but grocery prices were way higher about a year ago. And if his complaint is about the Liberals being the ones that are putting these pressures on individuals, why didn't he break the supply and confidence agreement then? That would have been a much smarter time to do so, and probably would have been much more beneficial to him. But he's saying all this when he was the one who kept the Liberals in power. When Pierre tried to do a carbon tax election at the beginning of the year, what happened? They voted no. So he's here complaining about that, yet he's also responsible for it. But let's continue.
They're making record profits, and you're experiencing record pain when you try to buy your groceries. Justin Trudeau has let them rip you off, and that's meant that you've had to pay the price. People are done with Justin Trudeau and the Liberals. But we cannot return to conservative cuts. We saw what Conservatives did when they were in power. What did they do? They forced seniors to work even longer before they could get their pensions.
Well, I guess Jagmeet doesn't watch my videos, or didn't see my video from yesterday, because his government, or his partnership with the Liberal government, has actually forced seniors to try to go back to work because they can't afford anything on the pension that they currently have.
It's gone up 100%.
The people coming to see you are getting older as well.
We're getting a lot of clients that are retired. They're 70 years old or plus, and they're looking for part-time because they cannot live off their pension.
As I said, prime example, this guy doesn't even listen to the news or watch the news, it seems like, because he wouldn't have made a statement like that, or a statement like this where he's saying that if Conservatives get into power, it's going to go from bad to worse.
They cut pensions. They cut healthcare. They cut investments in people. They cut the things that people needed. That's what the Conservatives did. And frankly, that's what Pierre Poilievre wants to do again. He's been very clear. He wants to cut pensions. He wants to strip away dental care from seniors and kids. What kind of person wants to do that? He wants to cut health care. He wants to cut the things that you need, and it's going to take things from bad to worse.
And this is how you know Jagmeet is just out of touch. His head's in the sand. He doesn't actually know what the hell's going on in the country. Because let me tell you, I bet you Judy here would give up all of these programs, senior dental, whatever, take all the cuts, and nothing could be worse for her than having to now live in a tent with her 80-year-old husband at 77 years old.
In this tent lives 77-year-old Judy Howe with her 80-year-old partner George. a situation she never imagined to be in. She says they had an apartment in Halifax before the building was sold and to be torn down. After that, they went to Ontario to be with George's dying mother, but they couldn't afford to stay there and chose to return to Halifax.
It's not home. You know, it's not a place you can cook a meal for yourself. You can take a shower. We go up to the Y on Park Street here. I always get lost trying to find my way out. And that's where we shower at. And you can go there every day if you want, you know. And thank God they have that service. But it's not where I want to be. I go to bed crying at night. At night I go to bed crying and I pray to God, asking him to get me out of here. I need to be out of here.
With the couple's deteriorating health, a volunteer street navigator is desperate to get them into affordable housing.
Judy is the age that my mom would be if she was still alive. And it breaks my heart to see that people who have been born and raised in Canada and Nova Scotia are now having to face this.
Yeah, it's absolutely heart-wrenching seeing this old lady kind of break down into tears there, just saying that she can't do this. She can't live this way. Never in her wildest dreams of being a Canadian did she ever think that she'd probably be ending up in a tent at 77 years old on the streets of Nova Scotia. Like, there's no way that Singh could say going from bad to worse by switching to a conservative government. There's just no way you can say that. And again, this is 9 years after the Liberal government, with the help of the NDP propping them up. So Singh is just as much to blame for her situation as he can throw it at Trudeau. Yet he continuously talked in this press conference about him wanting to be the Prime Minister, him being the next Prime Minister of Canada. And when a reporter actually asked him about this, because he doesn't have seats, he doesn't have really coverage across any of the ridings, and that's something that is needed. This was his lame answer, which is kind of the answer he gave throughout the whole thing. So I'll let this one play out so you kind of get an idea of how he talked during the whole press conference, but this is his answer to that.
We've heard you over the last couple of days say that you are running to be Prime Minister. How are you going to turn things around for your party when it doesn't hold seats in Toronto? It only holds one seat in Quebec, doesn't hold any seats in Atlantic Canada. Like, those are important regions where if you want to be Prime Minister, either in a minority parliament or a majority, you need to pick up seats in those places. So how are you going to do that?
Well, we need to win in those seats for sure, and so we're gonna tell Canadians the choice that they have in the next election. It's a very important choice. And when you look at where people are at right now, if you walk around your communities, if you're at your local coffee shop, if you're at the grocery store, people will tell you that they are so frustrated with Justin Trudeau and the Liberals. They are done with the Liberals. So the choice in the next election is very important. And this is a choice that's going to be a choice that Canadians will make in Toronto, the Atlantic provinces, and across this country, in every part of this country. A choice for what type of change you want. And that change is a very important question. What type of change do Canadians want? Do they want the change that Conservatives propose to cut the things that you need, that Pierre Poilievre will cut your pension, cut your health care, make life even harder, take things from bad to worse, or the hope that New Democrats offer as change? The hope that we offer that we can actually build up a better country together, that united we can stop conservative cuts, that united we can actually take on the big corporate grocery stores that are ripping you off. We can actually stop them from exploiting people, put in place better protections for Canadians. We can do this together. That's a choice in the next election. And we're going to take that choice to Toronto. We're going to take that choice to the Atlantic provinces. We're going to take that choice across this country.
Now that's actually where I'm going to end his press conference, because I don't want to hear any more from him. I'm sure you don't want to hear any more from him. But what I will say is best of luck, because he's definitely going to need it. There's no way he's going to win any of those ridings. But as you heard from him, Conservatives bad, cut. It's going to be worse with them, which very, very unlikely. I don't see remotely how that's going to be even possible under 9 years of this liberal NDP supported government, how it could get any worse with the Conservatives. But the Liberals are now kind of touting these same talking points, and you're going to see that with this interview between Vassy and a Liberal member. Now, they're going to start this interview talking about Mark Carney, which the Liberals brought into their caucus as some sort of advisor, and now he's a lead, I believe, in a task force that they just created. So just take a listen to this.
I wanted to start off and ask about the appointment of Mark Carney, and specifically in your capacity as co-chair, what you hope it achieves from a strategic perspective.
Well, I think the first thing I would say is that we salute prominent Canadians that want to come and help and want to get involved in the party that actually for us is the alternative to a Conservative government. And having somebody like Mark Carney come on board officially to help the party, it's a huge advantage in terms of talking to Canadians about what's really important for them, which is, the economy and the social progress that we want to keep.
So I guess if the task at hand is so significant for him, why in this capacity versus as finance minister? I'm sure you're well aware of the reports at the outset of the summer that he was going to potentially replace finance minister Chrystia Freeland. Why this and not that?
Well, I mean, it's for him to answer the question around if he wants to be a candidate or not. I think what he decided to do was get involved in the party and in a very official position in terms of a working group towards the next platform and how we're going to present to Canadians the contrast of who we are as a party. And I think that's that's the task ahead, and that's what we're going to be doing with him.
I guess I didn't mean why. You're right. The question is for him on whether or not he wants to be a candidate. I meant more at the outset of the summer, the reports that originated from the Globe and Mail that he was in discussions to replace Chrystia Freeland as finance minister at the behest of the prime minister. Like, why did your government not choose to do that versus put him in this capacity through the party?
What we chose to do is what the prime minister announced and not what the rumors are or what the media are covering. The discussion between him and Mark Carney is for him to come in and give us a hand on a working group to talk about the economy. And that was the announcement. If there's future announcements, we'll see what he decides to do. But, having somebody like Mark Carney to come on board, it's a message to Canadians and all Canadians that want to come on board on this party to make sure that we are the alternative to a cutting and austerity government that the Conservative could be for Canadians.
And that to me is the key word, could be. The Conservatives could be a cutting government. Now, obviously, Pierre has mentioned a few things he's going to do, like axing the tax, defunding the CBC. But just like in yesterday's video, he's also talked about making smaller government. And if he can start cutting a lot of those public service jobs and saving the money there, then he might not need to touch any of these programs that have been implemented. So this little fear-mongering that they've started to try about the Conservatives cutting everything, your pension, your dental, your healthcare, all this stuff, might not even happen because he might get enough money from cutting all the public service jobs or making smaller government or doing the other small things that he's talked about so far, which would outweigh having to cut any of those programs. And that's not to say that that won't happen, that maybe some of those programs won't get cut. But this is where a lot of the confusion starts to kick in. As Vassy points out, you guys constantly talk about how good the economy is, yet now you're bringing in an economist to help you create a task force. Like, why?
And I do want to ask you more about that, because I think in particular the idea that he has been appointed to lead a task force focused on economic growth. I can think of numerous occasions on which your ministerial colleagues have pointed out to me that Canada's economic growth patterns are something to celebrate. So why do we now need a task force to study it?
It's not a task force to study what the economy should be, but a task force that adds on what the government's already doing. We have a great team. We have a great economic team. Now we're adding somebody at the party to get us ready to the campaign ahead. Because you know what? I mean, the economy, it is important. But what is the social progress that we want to have and having the growth of the economy, fighting climate change, fighting, the cuts of eventually a conservative government can have on the social progress that we have. And I think it's important for Canadians to find a way and make sure that Canadians are listening to us, so what the alternatives are and what the contrast is with the Conservative Party. And having somebody like Mark Carney, I think it's a sign of confidence that this is the government that will not only work on that progress, but make sure that we are building on it and moving it forward ahead.
So I guess I'm a bit confused. Is he brought on in order to paint a contrast with the Conservative Party, or to better advance your government's policies to create more economic growth that people feel on an individual level?
Well, he's coming to the party, to the Liberal Party of Canada, to work with the party in order to make sure that we're ready for the next campaign, to make sure that we are giving the right message to Canadians and make Canadians have a choice, and present that choice with a strong policy on economy and a strong policy on social progress, and a strong policy on environmental transition and economy on what we need as a country to be, because we have this great country in terms of the choices that Canadians will have. And I think Mark Carney is the right person to add on to the party to make sure that we're having those conversations in a strategic way in terms of moving forward to the campaign.
So again, just to be clear, do I interpret from that you plan to put more things in the window for Canadians, that you plan to be specific about what else your government is going to do to better improve their situations? Or are you going to continue doing what your ministerial colleagues keep saying to me, which is keep on delivering, essentially keep on keeping on? Or is there, wholesale change in store for Canadian voters?
I think what we need to make sure is that Canadians are understanding that not only the economy is going well, we have a strong economy in this country, and that economy is growing, but that we also have social policies that are tied to that economy that are important. One cannot go without the other. And Mark Carney is coming on board in the party to make sure that we're addressing those issues and we're communicating to Canadians the importance to having a strong economy and also a strong social progress policies. And the choice will have to be made by Canadians, what country they want to live in.
I mean, the NDP and the Liberals keep asking this question, but as we've shown multiple times, the map of Canada, majority of them are either blue or going blue. The polls show a vast majority of people want Pierre to be leading the country as the new federal leader. It's very clear that Canadians know what their options are. The Liberals, who have failed for the past 9 years, made it the worst economic crisis for everybody. Homelessness is through the roof, poverty is through the roof. Food banks are being ransacked. Immigration's out of control. The people are tired of this. They don't want to continue that. And the NDP was the party that helped get them to continue keeping their power. So people aren't going to go for that. So yeah, they know that Conservatives are their absolute best option. And they've made that very, very clear. Even your own constituents, as that Liberal MP from yesterday said, they're talking about how they're tired of the Liberal leader and that you need to shake things up. And this is actually something that Vashi calls her out on right here.
But how do you address, Minister, that though you say that the economy is doing well, and that, yes, at the macro level, GDP is projected, for example, to grow at the second fastest rate in the G7 next year, when you break that down per person, the situation is very different. The IMF, for example, the economy has now fallen behind its population growth for the 5th straight quarter. Compared to the same period last year, per capita GDP is now down 2.2%. It sounds like what you're saying is, as long as you tell Canadians that the Conservatives will take everything away, they will realize that your government actually is on the right path. But the data seems to support the sentiment that they've been expressing to you through public opinion polling, that they don't feel that way.
Ding, ding, ding. And she's not wrong, because guess what? We're not all stupid. We understand why the situation is the way it is. And that's why we're trying to reverse it. That's why we're trying to get out of it. We're trying to call election, trying to get the Liberals out of there. Now that the NDP have broken this coalition, It might be a little bit easier, hopefully, even though the Bloc has announced that they're going to support the Liberals. At this point, anything goes, in any sort of election earlier than October of next year will be well welcomed. But let's listen to her answer.
Well, there's one thing I'm going to agree with you, is that economy is doing well, but people don't feel it in their pockets. People don't feel that at the end of the month, they can make sure that they're paying their groceries. So I get that. Now, when I tell Canadians at the door, did you know that our government is the one that put in place the family benefits? A lot of people don't know that. So we have to do better in a way that we communicate to Canadians the social progress that we did, and also the economic progress that we did. And because we did that economic progress, is that we can pay for those social programs. And that's, I think, will be a main message in our next campaign, to make sure that people understand that those social progress were paid because the economy is doing well, and because of the choices that we did as a government to make sure that we're, driving down the inflation, not getting into a recession, and making sure that now we're looking forward to how the Canada can be competitive in the economic world. And I think, and making sure that at the end of the day, they'll have more money, because that's what they need right now, and have a financial security that they don't feel they have.
So in the same breath, the economy is doing fantastic, yet Canadians don't recognize it because they're getting hit hard. Why do you think that is? All of our money is either going to shelter or groceries, and that's if you can afford it, as I mentioned in the last video. And as Vash is about to point out, they've been in government for 9 years. If they haven't been able to convey or get across yet that these programs are programs that they made, like this family child benefit program, what makes them think that this next year is going to change anything? All they keep saying is that they're delivering for Canadians. They're listening and they're delivering for Canadians.
Yeah, but respectfully, you've been in office for 9 years, Minister. Your government has been there for 9 years. Those programs that you say you just need to better communicate, Canadians are not telling you through public opinion polling or their own well-being, as you just expressed it, that those programs are actually making a salient difference in their lives. Does your government not bear responsibility for the place Canadians find themselves in now? And don't you, as a result, need to present them something different than just, we will keep on doing the same until you realize how much we've helped you?
Well, again, I think it's a shared responsibility in the party when you're campaigning, that we go to the doors and we have those conversations with Canadians. Let me tell you that a family of 2 kids or 3 kids, the family benefits that they receive every month, it's a big, huge difference in their budget. And if you tell them, well, the Conservatives will give you a fiscal credit, that it's not money directly to your pocket, it's a huge difference. When people understand that, they're more scared about a Conservative government that will take away those programs than, having a conversation when they can be shown to have a real choice between what do we want as a country. And we have to make sure that we are getting more people more money, that we're getting young people jobs, that we're transitioning an economy to a green economy, that we make sure that as a country we're competitive in the global stage, but locally that people can pay their grocery, have a roof over their heads, and and be proud of being Canadian, and not get into this very American style politics. Well, we have to have those conversations,
Minister,
and
if
campaign
they're not,
matters.
Didn't your government help to lead them to that place? I'm not absolving the Conservatives of a lack of answers for exactly what you're spelling out. 100% they deserve those questions. But it's as though you're saying it just happened, right? Like Canadians just got to this point because of other stuff, nothing to do with our government. Like, do you understand the connection Canadians have made, that they're lying blame at your feet for a lot of this? And in response, you're not presenting them anything new.
Well, I agree again with you around the fact that we have a responsibility to have those conversations with Canadians. The global stage right now is in uncertainty. Changes are everywhere. Everywhere. Climate change, geopolitics. The changes is everywhere. And what we have to say to Canadians, and who do you trust to lead you through those changes? And we, again, campaigns matters. And I'm going to be honest with you. I think we have the best campaigner that I've known. I've known him for more than a decade. And I think our prime minister will be the candidate for the next campaign. And he's a freaking
You have no doubt?
really good campaigner. I have no doubt. Absolutely no doubt.
And I think that's what a lot of us want to see, is that they support him, have Justin run the party, because he's just going to run that party into the ground. But one thing I will note is when things are going bad, they say, "Oh well, it's bad everywhere. It's the worst all around the world." But when things are going slightly good, they say, "Well, we're the best in the world. We're the best in the G7 or the G20." It's like, first they can blame it all, and they do this with the financial thing as well, where they say, "Oh well, fiscally the world's in the toilet because of COVID and this and that." But then when the Bank of Canada drops a point or two, "Oh well, that was because we're fiscally responsible." Here's the same thing. This is no different from what you're saying. "Oh well, people are dealing with a lot around the world, but we do have such a strong economy." Yet then openly admits that Canadians don't even realize that, or don't even feel like it is, because we're suffering. But as always, this is just my opinion. Love to hear from you guys. So please let me know in the comment section below what you thought about this. If you made it to the end of the video, I really do appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed yet. And as always, I will catch you guys on the next one. Thanks again.